You're listening to the Variety Sports Network, your home for the best sports podcasters and live shows.
And welcome to another episode of the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast, episode 118. Here with you, January 8th, 2023. And I got my co-host with me, Tyler McGurk. Tyler, how are we doing today?
Doing good. Just trying to stay dry, stay warm in this rainy, cold, wintry day.
Well, for California perspective, this is
yes, California. California bias.
We're getting the storm out. It is for here. Our rivers are overflowing, all of it right over here, but we're doing fine out here. We're still doing the podcast. But if we do break away, I guess that's a good reason why right there. The storm is coming. Don't stand up, right? That's the key right there. Don't stand up. Tyler, we got a lot to get into today. We got the Warriors. We got a wild week that we're going to talk about. They had like some game winners there. We're going to get into a few other things regarding the Warriors. Klay getting hot now. He's hurt a little bit. We'll touch on that a little bit more. We'll kind of reset the NBA a little bit here with the new year starting up. And then we'll also touch on the NFL here being the last week of the season as well. Feel free to comment here on the podcast here. We'll definitely show it here, discuss it. Looking forward to that. Brought to you here by at Variety Sports Network. Proud to be part of that, like we said many times here. So, Tyler, with that said, why don't we get this show rolling here? Anything come up this week? What was up with you?
I did a little bowling yesterday.
Bowling?
I suck. That was a little weird. I thought I'd be better, but not a whole lot.
Well, how often do you bowl? Yeah, once every week.
Not very often, but I thought I'd be better.
Expect to be good.
I see these fat people bowl and they do fine. I felt like my body type would be okay, and I just fell apart. I couldn't do anything.
Isn't Kyle pretty good?
Yeah, Kyle's a really good bowler.
What's the average? Is he over 200?
Like a 190, 200. I mean, not really good. It's
that's
all
pretty good though for like just your average bowl. I mean, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, like an amateur.
Yeah, if you're getting like 280. It's funny, Derek. We were at like the Wolf Brewery here, like getting the food on Friday after work, and and we're like, for some reason they had like bowling on TV, and it was like juniors bowling. He's like, what is that? That's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, we had I had the kid coaching the kids yesterday basketball. It was funny. We played one of those teams because it's like kindergarten and first grade, right? And I have like a couple of kids on my team that are a little bit more like advanced than some of the other teams that we're playing. And like, I'm showing a little heart, like not trying to like just let them steal it, shoot a layup and all that kind of stuff. So I was trying to get some of the players that don't get as many shots up, trying to get their first basket. Somebody came up after me in the game and was like, so you guys took kind of an easy there. I was like, well, we don't really want to, win 45-0, with kindergartens or first graders. But I was like, well, maybe I'm not. But he did say that maybe he did say it rudely. He's like, there's coaches out there that will try to win like 100-0, like even at this age. I was like, well, I guess that's just not me. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, maybe I'm gonna kill her like that at that age. So
that'd be a psychopath, dude.
Like, a little funny thing that came up yesterday with it. But I'm not saying that that's not a way you can't go, but in our league, the way it's set up, probably not the way to go with it. So I thought that was kind of just something that kind of came up yesterday. That kind of was thinking about it last night.
Could you imagine being on the other end of that? If you beat a team, if you got beat 100-0 as the other coach, like, what do you get out of this beating us 100-0? There's nothing like this isn't fun for anybody.
That's kind of what I said. Is like, well, if that happened to me, I'd be definitely be having a conversation with the coach after the game there for sure. But with that being said, I also kind of want to mention the guys at Variety Sports Network. We picked up a couple more podcasts this year, so keep tuning in. Big things happening. We're going to be doing our last Talk on the Gridiron episode tonight as well. Looking forward to that. Or maybe Monday I'll talk to Jimmy. We'll get that time straightened out here. Tyler, with that said, we got a lot to get into this week, but I feel like we need to just touch on like the big kind of event, I guess, for this week, elephant in the room in a sense, the sad part from the week, but something that I just think will probably be something like you look at like, oh, I know where I was at when that happened. You know what I mean? Kind of deal. This time, not for the good at all, but I feel like it is important for us to touch on the Damar Hamlin thing first before we get into kind of the fun part of sports, because we've kind of, a lot of people I feel like it affected a lot of people this week, right? I don't know. I noticed that right away, and obviously it should, but it was just different. We haven't experienced anything like that in a sporting, in my sporting life, like watching something on TV or on like that. You've seen guys get concussed or even paralyzed on the field, or think they were paralyzed on the field, and they continue to play. This was obviously a lot different in that regard with him going under cardiac arrest. and just what a miracle is he is still alive. I mean, the Bills guys, the Bengals guys, the first responders, just an incredible job there. We always do this first aid thing for Tishy before the year, and I always kind of put myself in that perspective, and like the real deal is nothing you could really kind of go through until it actually happens, and like for them to be able to respond, on cue as well as they could, it was crazy. There was some audio I guess they had of that part of, like the first minute of them on the field. And I was like, I don't want to hear that. Like, that's just like, I don't like, it's just, no, I don't want to hear that. But just an amazing job by them. And I don't know, just kind of just interesting to see the whole NFL community kind of get around this thing, and good stuff so far.
Yeah, it was just the visuals of it were different than anything else. You see the tackle, you see him get up, and then all of a sudden he falls flat back on his back, and you're like,
yeah,
oh man, this is not good. You could see the paramedics giving him CPR on the field, which isn't like this Hollywood thing. That's like, it's very violent almost when you give someone CPR. And it was scary. You could see the players' reactions. They were very emotional, as they should have been. My biggest takeaway from this is it was nice to see like everybody on the same side for a couple of days. Like every team, every person was on Damar Hamlin's side. Everyone was praying for Damar Hamlin. Everyone wanted this to go one way. And it's so weird. Like in the sports world, you don't get that anymore. It's always this like almost toxic thing where it's like fueled by hate almost now. And it was just nice to see that aspect of everybody coming together. I would like to see the NFL do something about, like, Damar Hamlin isn't guaranteed life, like, insurance for the rest of his life through the NFL. I feel like there should be rules, like, you're putting your life at risk playing for the NFL, where I think you should be compensated in a way, or like if you're putting your life at risk, you should get. I feel like insurance should be more readily for these players who have played in the NFL. It shouldn't have to be after 5 years or 3 years or whatever. I know it's 3 years.
No, I think that's good. I think that's a good
point. It just should be more readily available to these players.
I just think it was good for us to touch on like that, what you just said right there, and then just like you said, just we're at the end of the week. That happened on Monday. We were on Sunday, so we just before we kind of get into the good stuff of sports, I think we had to put that moment into perspective, and what could have been, I guess, like what could have been the ultimate tragedy, right on the sporting field, like literally the worst thing that can happen. We're now seeing the best sides of like humans and the human empathy and just that kind of stuff that we're not used to seeing. So and for a few moments we accept that part of it, and hopefully as a society we can stay like that. But for the most part, I just feel like that was something we had to kind of touch on first before we before we kind of got into the real side of sports and that from that side of it. I was thinking the only injury that I can really think of where I kind of remember, and I don't even know, I wasn't really even there, but I guess it just stood out to me because I see it so many times, is that movie, is James Rebecki with the injury that he had there with it. So I don't know. That's the only one that I can kind of stand out. I was thinking of back to all the Raider games I went to, and like if there was like anything that like really, really stood out. And I don't even remember. I don't even remember that being like anything. So do you have anything that you kind of like remember?
Not like, I mean, there's like leg injuries, but it's not life threatening or anything. There's always like, oh, he'll be okay eventually. I mean, I don't want to compare the two, but like horses that get put down on a track, like it's scary. Like it's like, wow, you have to watch. Like they put a little shower curtain around these horses, and it almost kind of had that vibe. Like it looked that way with the players all surrounded. Obviously, they weren't putting them down, and they were trying to save him, but it just that look. It was just it was visceral feeling that you got.
Yeah, so definitely one of those things that we never see again in that regard there. But like I said, we'll move on to kind of pay our respects in that regard to the people there that just an incredible job, like actual heroes right there, getting that done there to save that young man's life from Pittsburgh University over there. All right, with that, we'll transition, like we said, we're going to transition here into the Warriors a little bit. And man, what a crazy week they had. All right, like what just a crazy week they had this week. What'd you think? What'd you think of they have the crazy game against the Hawks, a double overtime game that I fall asleep in. They get over there, and then that one, and then I have to wake up to all these tweets about the Warriors coming back, so I have to rewatch the game. Very frustrated I missed that, but it is what it is. And then they ended up losing to the Pistons, and then losing the Magic last night in an ugly game. Ended up now having a 2-game losing streak, and they lost the season series to both teams who have some of the worst records in the league. I don't know. What do you think of and there was also that game they lost against the Pistons, right? It's kind of a weird game because Klay was playing well and he hit that buzzer beater to tie it up, so it felt good in some ways. So what do you think in that regard? What do you just your initial thoughts of the week?
It started off great. It was a very happy week, and then you get swept by the Magic and the Pistons in your season series, and it just ends with Klay having a sore knee. It just feels like the Warriors can't get anything going, like as far as like any like real traction going forward. I liked what I saw from Ty Jerome and Jeremy Lamb at home. They look like they can be rotational pieces. Lamb, especially last night, the fact that he can even get up 20 shots, I didn't think he was capable of that. Scored 20-plus points. So it was nice to see that. And then Jerome, just a calming influence. He's slow, but under control. My other takeaway is, man, Poole doesn't bring very much if he's not scoring the basketball. His defense is terrible. His playmaking is average. If he's missing shots, which he can do with the best of them, he can also make them with the best of them. But Poole's been –
Can I stop you before we get to the takeaways real quick? Because I wanted to talk about the games real quick. So I wanted to go about with the Hawks real quick. Let's start there with that game. What did you make of like that game overall? Because the Warriors have a tendency in those games to kind of get they get ahead, right? And then they just completely get down in those games. Then they kind of let the team back in the third quarter. They haven't been as dominant in the third quarter, I feel like, lately. Any takeaway from that game that you kind of thought – because to me that was the craziest game they've had in a few years.
Yeah, I'm going to start an over. Like they get behind in overtime, and then they would just bounce back. They were resilient, and then Looney, just special performance, just gobbling up rebounds and then the putbacks to win it. Klay was great. It was the most entertaining game that wasn't a playoff game, like a regular season game that doesn't mean much this year for sure. Oh. And everyone played pretty good, like for the Warriors.
And then why can't they just beat the Detroits and Orlandos this year? Like those to me are the frustrating ones a little bit. Like I don't understand what the issue's been there. I don't you know what I mean? Like we're just not showing up. Last night's a little bit more understandable with the loss with a lot of people missing in that regard. But I don't know. Those to me are losses at the end of the year that you just can't have during the week.
4 losses to those two teams.
So, I don't know. All right, let's get back to your takeaways now. You mentioned you were talking about Jerome and Lamb being pieces at home. That's an interesting one, though, because they're in those two-way contracts, and there's a chance that they can only play 51 games a year, and they're not eligible for the playoffs. And, Lamb's already at, 31 games, maybe 32 now. And then you have Jerome that's at, 26 games that he's played in. So Curry even mentioned last week that these guys are going to have to sit out games. So I agree that I mentioned last week I owe them an apology, but there is that little nugget to what you said as well, which kind of throws a little wrinkle in it in some regards, right?
I mean, I feel like they'll get a full contract at some point. Can they do that? I don't know the rules, but how could they
there's only so many people you can have on your roster too, right? There's only so many guys.
Yeah, there's 14 guys, I believe.
Yeah, so I don't know how that works with the two-way contracts and who they have under contract at the moment, but Kerr definitely made it seem like he was going to have to sit these guys. So it's obviously an issue at some point, right? So
that's not good. I didn't know about the 51 games and the playoff eligibility. It's kind of
a crazy rule too.
Yeah, it seems unnecessary. I don't know.
Maybe it
makes things more complicated.
Maybe it forces teams not to just get all these guys or something like that. You have to actually pay these guys if you want to keep playing them for so long.
Well, that makes sense.
So what do you think about number two, though? Poole's been a hot topic this week.
He's played terrible the last couple of games. He hasn't got off. I mean, how could you not beat the Orlando Magic and the Detroit Pistons? Especially the Pistons. Klay was great. Poole was not very good. And then Poole lastly, even worse. And then what's your thoughts on Poole? He's not scoring.
I think he's getting way too much hate right now. I know a lot of people want to. I understand he hasn't played as well in moments, and he stumbled at the end of the games at times. But I don't know. To me, that's part of the. He was the 28th overall pick a little bit. He was in the G League a couple years ago. I mean, like he's improved a little bit. We paid him.
Yeah,
the
but he
big
got
contract.
$150 million. We're past
but
that. We're past that stage in his career.
But my point is that he's not like we all know he's not the guy, right? And I feel like there's games where he's gonna have like this, where like there's nobody else out there, especially with Klay like not there and stuff, where he's gonna like stumble. And then there's gonna be games where he does have Klay and some of his guys there, and he's going to be not very efficient, right? But then I don't know. I just feel like he's just not all there yet. I still feel like he's kind of like grooming his game a little bit. But I see more positives than I do negatives in him. But I understand the frustration, I guess, with fans. But I don't know. I just feel like fans are too harsh on him. I get it, but he's like maybe I don't know. I guess Poole's like one of those guys I kind of like a little bit. So I don't know. There's certain people he defend a little bit. Maybe Poole's that guy.
He's fun to watch. He just has moments where he doesn't do enough outside of scoring, and it's
stupid. Like he took a couple shots last night, like where he got like kind of like held on coming off screens like a little bit, and like you could tell he got frustrated, and so he rolled and like he took a terrible three, and I was like, what are we doing over there? So I don't know. That was kind of some of the crap. Like I get like that stuff, and then like you can't have the turnovers at the end of the game. He's done that twice now this year against Utah. That was a big freaking one, and then the one there. So I don't know. So you got Poole there. You seem like you're more concerned about it in some regards. I just think he's frustrating at times.
Not concerned. Yeah, he was very frustrating this week. He wasn't good. He didn't provide much that he needs to provide as the best player on the team. When just strictly last night, he didn't do enough. He was bad.
He's the only ball handler out there at times. Like he's the only guy out there having to make plays. So we'll see what maybe he's worn out. He does play a lot. I don't know. He doesn't get much rest. Is there? Everybody else is getting rest on the team. We got to rest him up. We got to get. Listen, we got to get.
He's 22.
Got to get a little rest over there. Like, apparently, everybody gets rest in the league. I don't know. They got Draymond here.
He's the biggest.
Is this your yearly Draymond rant?
Yeah, this is my Draymond. This is why Draymond is not the player that Warriors make him out. I mean, he's a great complimentary piece. You put him on a bad team, he's not making anybody better. He makes good players better. He can't make bad players better.
But don't you think that's because he's at that point in his career? Like, if you were to play basketball right now on a team, you wouldn't want to go out there unless you were playing against good teams, really. You wouldn't want to go give your best effort against.
I think he's been this way his whole career. I don't think he was making bad players better. He just, if he was on the Pistons his whole career, he would be. I don't think he'd be very good. I know you don't like that take. I know you did. I just don't see
slap
it.
you in the face for that take. I know you, Ryan G. You're easy there on Twitter. I know you guys. There's the Draymond. I agree. I mean, I've ripped on Draymond here too with his stuff, his frustration. But I am not going to say if he's the best player on your team. Yes, you might have trouble on your team, but it doesn't mean that he's a bad player. So
no, I don't think he's a bad player. I would say he's a great complimentary. And then the weirdest thing he does this week is goes and gets on his knees and starts slurping LeBron. What are you doing? You're a Warrior. What the fans aren't going to like that. What are you doing? It doesn't make sense. He doesn't care about anybody except for his little world. Why do you have to suck off LeBron every time you can? It's so weird.
Got to stay in bed with LeBron. You got to stay there with him, I guess. Yeah, that was
like sports.
All right. Let's get to my takeaways here this week. I got Klay Strudy. He stays hot. Besides the injury last night, which was very disappointing to see, he was absolutely cooking. And he was looking way better, too. Like coming off screens. And he wasn't forcing shots like he was at the beginning as much. Like he was making the right pass, dumping it off to Looney on those little catch screens there. So I thought it was good to see him kind of get back, and then makes that Pistons three where you even mentioned it in a tweet where he got real high on the shot, made it look clean, nothing but net. He had like three others in that game that went, dead eye in and out.
Yeah.
Great play by Steve Kerr, obviously, to get him that shot as well. But Klay playing really well. Disappointing about the injury, though. Left knee, that's concerning. He didn't look happy. And it's like the Warriors, are going to kid glove it. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he's out in a couple weeks.
This is the whole season on the line, basically, if his knee doesn't. What?
I was just saying, it kind of always feels like right now, like everybody's getting hurt when they're getting back right now. Like Wiseman got back. Now he's out. For me, it's just like, it's frustrating.
Iggy's coming back. Wiggins is back. Curry's about to come back. And then Klay has this setback. It's just been a frustrating year. And Klay normally doesn't miss games unless it's like a scheduled game off, but injuries don't unless it's a big injury or he's
It was a
scheduled
late
off, he doesn't
scratch
miss.
too.
Yeah,
It was like an
game.
hour before the game too. So that was kind of the part to me. He must have been out on the court and just nothing. It didn't feel right, so they just like red flagged it and pulled him out for it. So hopefully it's nothing big, but he was hot before that. Hopefully they can finally get kind of their whole team together here. I know that's never other fans of other teams don't really care about that, but that's what it is. So I thought that was a big shot to take away.
Do you know?
Go ahead.
Do you know if they did X-rays or ran any tests, or they just like you just rest and he'll be back?
Who?
You're not sure.
Klay. No, they're gonna probably do some tests on his knee. I would think, right? Maybe I would think they're gonna do something on his knee. I don't think they're doing it.
Have they ran him yet? Do you know? You'd think they'd do it right away.
I don't know yet. They're probably letting him sit on it for a little bit. So I got that. Then I got Looney. He wins it. Like I said, that we talked about it a little bit. I wanted just to shout him. That was my big takeaway. Career high 21 rebounds versus Atlanta. And then the 2 at the end for the putback win. I like Azubuike, maybe his greatest call so far as a Warriors color guy there at the end. And the joy is filled. Like, it was a great timing. He did it really well there. So I got to give Azubuike some props as well on that call. But Looney, just kind of like the guy, right? Just like always stable this year. It's funny how his career has really turned into what it has, where he was like never available, kind of Wiseman-esque right now, right? In some regards, like just in terms of not being available. Yeah. He never even played like the first 3. He had surgery on stuff. That's kind of what Wiseman went through. And then when he would get back, he'd have a back thing that would react, and he'd be out another 8 games. So we'll see what happens with that part of it. So Looney, I want to mention, though, big shout out there, big win, the double tip for the win. And then Iggy Wiggins returned. Wiggins looked really rusty last night. He just did not look like he was in basketball shape whatsoever. He just looked, you know what I mean? He just looked off his game a little bit. And then Iggy, I don't know what to even make of it. I really don't, of his return at all. Like, do you have any thought on his return? Like, I just don't know what he can provide. You know what I mean? Like, what's he going to give us other than maybe a game moment here or there? Like, or just like, hey, we're down 10. Like, you know, we need this in there. So I don't know. It's going to be tough.
It's his first game back, so he was obviously a little rusty. He just looked spent. He looked like he had nothing, like no athleticism. He looked like it was time to hang him up. Is what I got. I was like, I don't see him contributing much this season. And like he even mentioned it before. He's like, if I'm on the court, something's going wrong.
That's never a like. I do appreciate for a lot of. What do you think of Wiggins though? I feel like his return is massive for us. We need him to pick it up a little bit for our team. Like he's been playing well, but we need him. Man, with the Klay going down again, if it's anything, and with Curry coming back next week. So I don't know. What do you think of Wiggins there?
Like you said, a little slow start, but yeah, he's our defensive guy. Like him and Kuminga are gonna have to guard the ball handlers, and
we need him badly.
Essential for this team to be successful.
That's funny about Iggy in that part. Haslam and him should have a one-on-one at All-Star game right there.
I hope Iggy could take Haslam. That would be.
All right, so that's what I got. Those were kind of our takeaways from the week here in the Warriors world here, NBA part of it. Like we said, they kind of fall, I think, now to 7th place or 8th place in the standings. Let me take just a quick little spot right here. They dropped number 8. They were at 6. Big news the other day. I was like, that's ridiculous. All right, let's go to the week ahead here. All right, only a 2-game week. They go Phoenix on Tuesday, which obviously always feels like a big game, even though Phoenix is struggling as well. Right now they have Booker, who's been out. Then they go to the Alamo Dome. They're going back. The Spurs. I guess it's been a big deal all year. They're trying to break an NBA record for fans at a game. So they're trying to get like over 100,000 there. So so Curry's returning for that for probably. Remember how I said about the bobbleheads? There's probably a reason Curry with this game was circled for the date to come back. So 100,000 people possibly in a stadium to watch you on Friday, and then you have the game on Tuesday against the Suns. What do you think the record might be at the end of this week? The game Tuesday obviously is at home. I said.
I expect a split. The Alamo Dome aspect's the thing I found the most interesting. Is this Steve Kerr? Like, obviously they're not going to throw Steph to the wolves, which is not healthy, but it seems like throwing him a bone to get Curry back right at this instant. Like, because without Curry, this game I don't think sells 100,000 tickets, or even close to. So they obviously use the Warriors for a reason for this game date as well. It seems like Kerr is in on this as well, and like conspiracy theory.
There's just no way that Curry would do it. He would never do anything to risk Curry, so I don't believe that at all with it. But I do think that NBA has like certain games that they want their guys to be in. And I feel like they all kind of knew this was like a big game at the beginning of the year. Because I heard about it when the schedule was first released. Like this game was actually mentioned. Like what's the guy, Ray Ritter? He talked about it like a few times on his like little very rare things on KBR. And I was like, this is actually probably a game that they're really looking at then. So I don't know. It'll be good to have, like we said, good to have Curry back. We'll need him back for sure come that time. I don't know. I'm going to say they go 1-1.
Yeah,
I'm going to predict. I'm going to say they beat the Suns and they lose to the Spurs.
That would be tragic. You can't lose to the Spurs.
That's the way we do things.
The Magic and the Pistons in week
we
and a
lose
half.
to teams on the road like this. I can see us after a bad loss coming back, playing better against the Suns, and then have 3 days off, play the Spurs in the Alamo Dome, who will probably be fired up, maybe a little too nervous, but I think they'll be ready to go. I could see the Warriors on the road, which is definitely not our strong suit.
No.
So that's what I'm going to go. What do you got, 2-0 or 1-0?
I got 1-1 as well, but I think they'll beat San Antonio and lose to Phoenix. But it's hard to say without a diagnosis of Klay, if he's going to play or not. Like, if he's playing, I'll take a 2-0 week, but I just don't think he's going to play.
Yeah, no, I got you. I don't think he's going to play at all either. Maybe the Friday one, if it's not as bad. I guess that's more than about a week out. All right, so that's the week ahead Warriors here. Let's get to our question of our week here. Question of the week. You posted something last night. If anybody wanted to ask us a question, one of them, we got a couple of them. Well, we got from our guy Ant here. We got, who is your favorite Warriors player not from this current championship dynasty? There are so many new Warriors fans I think people forget about the past greats. So from Ant, thanks for getting a question to us. Appreciate it. As always, for tuning in. Our guy there over in Memphis, big Grizzlies fan. Hopefully we'll get to have another Grizzlies-Warriors playoff matchup, so we can kind of have that rivalry as we talked about last week. All right. What do you think there? Who do you got for some of yours?
I got greats in my lifetime. There weren't too many greats. There were some very good. I got Baron Davis, obviously Jay Ritz. We got Antoine Baby, and then Monte and Latrell Sprewell. Those were like my favorites growing up. People whose jerseys I would have owned if outside of that, it's slim pickings.
All right, so I got like a 12 on here. So this is who I got for my type of Warrior grades.
That you actually like these players.
I thought they were decent players in my era, right? I thought they were decent. I thought they were going to be something. Maybe they did turn out.
Let's see.
So I got Monte, of course. You got Jay Rich, like you mentioned. Antoine Jameson on that list, of course, on there. Danny Fortson, I did like. I thought he was going to be something there at the 10-10. I thought that was a big deal. The overhyped shoulder.
You're listening to Bob too much.
Daniel Marshall, I had a little hype trade on him. I always thought the three.
He was fun.
The quarter threes, whether I had him. Barry Hughes, when that trade was made, I thought that was going to be a life changer for us. And a lot of people forget he was decent on the Warriors for a few. He was our second lead scorer.
38% shooting. You didn't like Larry Hughes. There's no.
When they traded for him, I thought it was going to be. I remember the article in the press Democrat. The radio was excited. They got a new guy. The guy he was from St. Louis. I knew his story. Came out as a freshman. I was like, all right, we got Larry Hughes. Gilbert Arenas.
I missed Gilbert. That was a big
Gilbert on there.
That was a mess up on my part. Gilbert was probably my favorite player of all these guys. He didn't play very long for the Warriors, but that was a big admission on my part.
I got to go with a big guy here. You know, it didn't end well for the man in here in Golden State, but he had a nice little run. A big part of the We Believe team. I'm going to go big Andres Biedrits. We got to go him with a great year. We got us a big win in the playoffs. A few dunks. Made one of the greatest free throw forms of all time. I had to mention him as well. Everybody knows Andres over there. Mikel Petrus, got to throw him out there. Had some moments for the Warriors for sure.
His biggest moment was missing free throws against Utah.
He waved a dark flag after we beat them, and I beat them.
God.
I got Petrus on there as well. I got David Lee.
Don't put Bobby Sir on the list.
David Lee. David Lee, I'm just throwing in there. I know he won a championship, but I'm gonna throw him in there. He kind of was a bookend chip, or for the bookend of his thing there. I'm gonna go and a couple more here. Matt Barnes, I think was a Warriors kind of fan that a lot of people liked. And then one that I think didn't get enough respect when he was here, but he did help the Warriors actually win. Then when I look back at their history, like of guys that actually contributed off the bench, like there was like guys like we talked about, like Mookie Blaylock or guys like that. But I'd say the guy that kind of came in and actually did something to help the Warriors get there was Jared Jack for that short little time he was here on the Warriors. So
Yeah,
I gotta say, for that 1 year, he'll be somebody that I think you got to give him mad respect for his time with the Warriors for sure. So Jared Jack definitely gets my call there. You rolled your eyes.
Jared Jack, he kind of
You
helped
rolled your eyes
the
at
Splash
Andres.
Brothers.
What? I said, what did you say about Jared Jack?
He like helped the Splash Brothers develop into the players they are. He took them under their wing and sort of showed them how to be a pro, take care of their bodies. So yeah, he was
and he was only there 1 year. It's not like he was there forever or anything like that either. So
no.
A good question from Ant. That was a good. You rolled your eyes at Andres. Come on now, he was a quality partner.
No one liked on. He couldn't catch the ball.
No Al Harrington love. He had Steven Jackson on there. On his list, when we were talking about it, he had Steven Jackson on there. I couldn't put Jackson on there.
Yeah, after I don't get paid enough to be the captain comments, it was tough to root for Steven Jackson.
Yeah, that one was tough for me to put on that regard. A couple other CM that we didn't mention. Mario Ellie was the Warriors one. Chris
John
Webber.
Starks. I know Ant's a big John Starks fan.
He did. I don't think he did not put John from the Warriors game. That wasn't one of John's best moments on the Warriors. He had Spreewell on there. That was a good one. We kind of forgot. Mitch Richmond.
I said Spreewell.
Oh, did you? Okay, Mitch Richmond as well on there too. So Mitch Richmond was one that I just so short-lived, but he gets a lot of love out.
And obviously, Mullen and Tim Hardaway make the list.
And Mullen obviously on there as well. And so those were some fun ones as well to look at. Yeah, Mullen definitely on there. We can't forget him for sure. Yeah. Mullen's one of the best up there before the championship one. So
probably the second best, or after Curry, is he the most reverend warrior of our generation, or revered, or whatever the hell that word is? Podcaster, not an educator.
I went to read a book, man. Read us a Thor.
Start book.
Read us a Thor. I would say
him or Klay.
Well, if we're taking anybody from there, it's got to be Mullen. He's got to be on there, right? I mean, he was in the Dream Team. He's in the Hall of Fame as well. Yeah, I'd say for sure. All right, let's keep this thing going. Let's kind of again, Ant, thank you for that question. We appreciate it. Hopefully, we should do that a little bit more often. Send that out a little bit earlier in the week. Maybe get some questions of the week going. We'll have one more for you guys later in the show as well. One more question of the week here. All right, let's keep it going NBA style all the way around like we did last week. Let's go to our give and go segment again here. The scoring in the NBA is way up. So what is causing all this? Is the trend here to stay? What's the deal? What's kind of your opinion on why the scoring, especially this week alone, was ridiculous? Like, we have like 27 times, or like I have here, there's 27 times players scored 40 points or more in 1 week, or in a 10-day span. So I don't know. What do you think? It's been ridiculous, the scoring that's been going on.
I mean, I was just looking at the pace of play. Like back in when Steve Nash was with the Suns, that offense would be 16th in the league in offense this year, and the 30th ranked defense that year would be the 8th best. Like the pace of play is just out of control. Like we talk about the NFL and how offense is so much easier. It's happened in the NBA. It's just slowly, and it doesn't look like it's changed, but it definitely has. And just players are way better shooters than they are. Like they get better and better every year coming out of college. And I just think the shooting's way up and the pace of play is way up, and it just asks for more scoring. So someone has to score. So these individuals who are leaders of their team and getting the most shots are going to score more.
I think it's a combination of that. I think that the coaches have figured out an offensive system of spacing, and the players have a better understanding of what they're running, than they were like 8 years ago in terms of understanding like where they're supposed to be on the floor and how the coaches can manipulate some of these things. And a lot of teams are getting a lot of good 3 shots, and they're shooting a ton of them. So you actually, you're getting that one extra point every time you shoot it. And so I just think the players are getting better at executing that system, and now the teams are filling those spots with players that have the coach's visions in that regard. So I think that's part. And then the guard play is just insane in the NBA right now. Like we're going to do some all NBAs. It's insane. So usually the guards obviously have the ball in their hand most of the time, and the big guys aren't touching the ball, which is going to slow down the game, like you said. And then you mentioned a good point about that pace and the Suns point. That's an interesting one about being the 16th. Could you imagine that team was like, they wrote a book about that team for 7 seconds or less. Now they would be, 16th. That's crazy to think about. But they weren't
the 30th. And the 30th ranked defense would be the 8th best ranked defense now, like based on points per game and whatnot. Obviously, they don't play good defense. They're 30th for that. But just that's how fast the game has moved.
What do you think about the defense as part of it? You ever hear people saying the defense sucks in the NBA now? Like, Like the rule. I don't know. Like, is it this like that? I feel like are we becoming like the NFL in that regard from a few
I
years
do
back?
think it's becoming the NFL. And Kevin
Big
Durant
12, I
made
call it the Big 12. The Big 12.
Kevin Durant had a quote. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but he said something about I don't know why people are complaining. It's not a playoff game. We're not going to give the effort on playoffs. Just be happy that we're playing or something. I was like, oh God, that's not what I want to hear from, especially a guy I defend all the time. And it just goes to show these guys aren't playing like their hardest on defense. They're conserving something for the playoffs.
I don't know. I always say they just got to lower. I always say they got to put less games in the regular season. That's always what I feel.
I thought you were going to say lower the rims. That's
no, the rims later. All right, yeah. So I don't know. I think, like you said, the combination of the spacing, the coaches understanding that a little bit more, the players being able to execute that a little bit more, and then just the shooting better in general as well. I think that's like allowed some of these players to have more space to be able to operate, like our Lucas and our Giannis's and our SGAs of the world. Like they're just they're averaging 30 like that. So all right, that's what we got there with it. Next give and go here, I got most valuable player in the NBA. We're gonna do a little draft style with it though. Instead of saying who we think is the MVP in that, we'll just kind of go in order. That will kind of tell us where we think. We can have a discussion about it as we go. I feel like it's a good time to do it right now in the NBA. And this year, to me, it's the best time to do it other than other years because I feel like it was always way too early and there was only like a couple guys. This year, there's just so many that I feel like are having outstanding years that it should be a little bit interesting here. I'm going to give you the first pick here in the draft. Who would you take with the MVP?
Before we start that, how far down your list does it go till you're like, okay, this is there? I went 7 deep, where I was like, okay, 8, 9, 10 probably won't win it. But how far down until you go, all right, there? I think 7 guys have a chance at actually winning the thing.
I went 8.
Steph's your 8th, or in your 8?
Steph's not even on my list.
Oh. Interesting.
I don't think Steph has a chance of winning the MVP this year unless the team just goes on a wild run to win it, to get the number 1 seed. I just don't think he has a chance to win it. So let's go first pick.
I mean, I'll take Luka first overall pick. His numbers are ridiculous.
So you think?
And I feel like they don't want to give it to Jokic for 3 years in a row.
So you think he's the MVP of the season? You would take him with the MVP? He's the guy you're
you said you don't have Steph in your. I'm sure you would think he.
No, I'm about to say, who are you taking as MVP? Who do you think is going to win the MVP this year?
I think Luka will win the MVP.
Yeah, MVP will win it. So that's who you got taking it. I have. So you got him with the first pick. That's perfect. I get the guy I want anyways. I get Jokic with my first pick. So I have him as my number 1 ranked MVP right now. I just feel like the way the Nuggets are at number 1 seed, and then the way his stats are just as good as they've been every other year, I don't see why he's not going to win it this year. So I got Jokic as, to me, the top MVP. You have Luka. I think that might be where it comes down to. I don't have Luka even in the top 3, so we'll see where this discussion goes. But all right, here we go. Let's keep it moving. You took Luka with your first pick. I took Jokic. Unless you want to talk about something more.
Do you want me to go?
Nope, your pick.
I got Durant.
All right, so you think Durant? That's it. That's who I had too as the 3rd MVP. Yeah, I feel like he's been unreal this year. I feel like we haven't given him enough credit, or I haven't probably.
He's shooting damn near 60% from the field. He's he's incredible. And his playmaking has gotten a lot better. Yeah. And he's gotten Kyrie to buy in. I'm
gonna take Tatum. I had him number 2 on my list overall. So I got my top 2 MVP guys at 2 and 4. So I just think with them being the number 1 seed, it just puts them a little bit ahead of Durant at this point. So I got him there. Who else you got?
I got Ja at 5.
Ja at 5.
I think Memphis is going to win the West, and I think Ja will be the leader of that, obviously. But
right now, you would take Ja 5.
What?
Right now, you take Ja 5. He's the 5th best player.
I thought we were picking who we think is going to win the MVP.
Yeah, right now, based on their stats, right now, who's going to win the MVP?
I thought right now.
Yeah,
or is it at the end of the year?
Yeah, who would win it right now? Who's the number 1 candidate right now? That's how we're doing. You got Ja there. Okay, that's our list is completely different. We should just do it this way because I didn't realize how far our list is. I got Jokic, Tatum, Durant, Giannis, Luka as my top 5 in order. So I don't even have. I have Luka 5. What do you
I have
got?
Luka, Jokic, Durant, Tatum, Giannis, or Giannis.
Okay, so that's who did you have 2? Durant.
No, Jokic.
Okay, so you did have Jokic too. Okay, good. Then you had Durant 3. Yeah, what the Tatum part is kind of going to be an interesting debate towards the end of the year because I almost feel like Durant might get better All NBA, but Tatum could win the MVP. So for the next 5, I had at 6. I had Mitchell. I think he's number 6 in line for
Mitchell at 10.
The way the Cavs are playing right now, based on the standings. I got Embiid right below him at 7. I got
Embiid at 7.
I got Morant at 8. I have
Steph at 8.
I got Morant at 8. I got Brown at 9. And I got Curry. 9. I got Curry at 10. So those are my top 10. And then I have
Mitchell at 10.
I threw Zion, Sabonis, and SGA as kind of some other ones in there to have at that point. Yeah. Man, what a difference ours is. Like, that's a big difference in terms of the MVP. I just get.
It's really not that big of a difference.
I threw this in terms of the top guy. I'd say it's pretty. That's for MVP.
I have Jokic 2. You have Jokic 1.
Yeah, and then where do you have Luka though? You said Luka 1, right?
I have him at 2.
I thought you
had him at 1.
Yeah, and I had Luka at 5. So
that's.
Where'd you put Giannis for?
I have Giannis at 6.
6. Okay, so I had him at 4. So some differences along Mitchell a little bit. So yeah, maybe not like 1 to 9, but there's a few differences that I wasn't expecting for us. So that's what I mean about this MVP race, though. It's kind of like there's a lot of. It's not just as obvious as like 2 guys that are out on the list there. So that's a good discussion to have there with it. All right, let's keep it moving from that part. What do you think about this part of the NBA's contenders that we can trust? I thought this was interesting looking at the standings this week. Like, so the Nuggets, like, I trust them now to think that they could actually make it to the finals. Are you there with them yet?
No, I don't think Jokic has enough around him. I don't trust Michael Porter Jr. and I don't trust. I mean, I think they have a good roster if they stay healthy. I just don't trust Porter Jr. or what's the point guard number 27? What's the blank?
Yeah, Murray.
Or Murray to stay healthy. And Murray just seems like he's lost a step since his injury. He might get better as the season goes on. We'll see. But I still think they're going to be in the top 3. I think they'll win the first round, and second round, I think they can get got. Could they make the finals? I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be like, oh, that's a crazy thing to happen, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, the Nuggets, I think they're – I almost feel like they're the best team, the number 1 contender in the West. I feel like their roster's the deepest in some regards. And the way that Jokic is just been a mastermind of the the West here, I don't necessarily see the team. The Warriors and Grizzlies to me are the next 2 and up, right? Like those are the next 2 teams that could be lined up to get them. I don't know. I just think the Nuggets are pretty legit, and they actually have some pieces where they could make a trade if they wanted to at this point too. The way their roster's set up and the way their contracts are, that they could go out and like upgrade more than like the Warriors can, or probably the Grizzlies will want to do. So I just feel like they are the number 1 contender with that little nugget there that they could, no pun intended, that they could actually, kind of improve their roster. And I think the way that I saw Murray is looking a little rusty, but Gordon's never played better. And I feel like Jokic and the way Gordon's playing off him has been really good to see. Like we'll see in the playoffs, with the shooting, when they leave off him, is Gordon doing what he's doing now, which is taking advantage of still cutting? Like he's not playing like Iguodala. He's kind of like the Iguodala rule, not just shooting tons of threes, making just enough to keep you honest and doing everything else well. That's what the Nuggets win, and that's what he's doing really well right now. I mean, what was that? He had a freakish game that Christmas Day, 7 dunks or whatever. So and they were like nice dunks. These weren't just your average dunks. So I don't know. Like, that's a team I would trust. The Grizzlies, they're high. I'm still trusting them a little bit. But the championship, I was talking to our guy Ant last night. I still feel like they have to make one more trade for me to get to the championship level. I just don't know if I fully think those first 5 guys can make it to the finals.
It's all about Bane. If Bane gets back to pre-injury, he's been struggling lately. But I don't think Gordon's not a playoff player to me. I feel like you can be guarded and game planned against if you have a 7-game series where you can just take him and be like, all right, let him beat you, basically. Because he's just not the shooter that up the NBA par. But neither was Iggy. That's a good comparison. If he does the Iggy things, then we'll see. I think the Grizzlies. I don't think anyone can guard Zaw in the playoffs if you can get to the free throw line. Like Zaw's going to get to the free throw line. I think
I guess
Memphis
the
is
thing
better.
that worries me about them is in like a regard like to like that playoff series would be Jaren Jackson. Can we trust him enough in that series?
That is that
out of
factor.
trouble? There's that Brooks part of it too, and then I feel like the shooting part. Yeah, you have Ja there that can drive and get by anybody, but in that playoff series, will they have enough? Like Bane right now is still he'll be fine. Their first 5 will be fine. It's just that who's going to come off in the playoff series. I just feel like if they got one more piece, I'd feel a little bit more confident about them kind of getting to that next role with it. A couple other teams I want to touch on. The Pelicans. How you there? Trust me, at them.
Their injuries are just you can't trust any of them to be. I think their first 5 is great. Like with Ingram, McCollum.
Think they can get to the championship with that 5?
No,
though?
I don't think they can. They're too young. They have steps to take. But I think they're fun. They're going to be in the top 4. I don't see them going anywhere.
And what the hell's the problem with the Suns right now, man? We'll talk about. I mean, I know Booker's out, but the Ayton thing, our guy Savage completely called that one a few years ago. He's been on that one since the beginning. Honestly, they've been. I don't know, like they've just been a dumpster fire in some sense. Like, what I mean? They're just not playing very well. They've fallen all the way down to what was it, 9th place now. So I don't know. They're just or 7th place now. So they've been kind of on a bad stretch of games here too. So do you trust them still as a contender? Let's say more than like the Pelicans.
Chris Paul's old. I think he's on borrowed time. I don't think can he lead a team to the finals? I just don't see it.
See, that's kind of what I wanted to have this discussion with you because, like, when I look at it, we can easily say, like, yeah, I know this team, this, that team, that. But when we really look at it, it's like to me, the only real contenders in the West, like where I feel like they can get to the finals, is the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, and the Warriors. I feel like those are and maybe you throw the Mavericks in there if they get a trade, or the Clippers. But I can't trust the Clippers at all. They don't even look happy out there with their guards. So I don't know. To me, those are like the 3 teams. And so it's funny, we look at the standings now, and it's like right now, those to me are the championship teams, unless Dallas does something that I'm not expecting or something like that. So I don't know. To me, it's kind of just funny looking at it like that.
I think you're absolutely right. I know those are the 3 best teams when fully healthy, and
the Nuggets right now are playing the best out of them, right? So that's kind of where it's like it'll be interesting, that series if them and Memphis ever did meet up and the Warriors did get knocked out early. That would be an interesting duo between your best player being your center or then your best player being a big, and that kind of matchup there. So that'd be kind of interesting there with that one. All right. Another thing I wanted to talk about was to the East a little bit with contenders was the Cavs. And you talked about Mobley, I think a couple weeks ago, or when they played the Warriors played them, and you said, I think you're like, I don't know, when I saw something out there, I wasn't like overly like, I thought he was going to be better in some regards. He made that like right, and I saw him play. He's still really good, does everything well. He'll make it, does all the little things well. But I did see some of, I think, what you saw. Like it did look a little unnatural, some of his moves and stuff like that at some point. But I say that just to say, can the Cavs be a true contender? Like maybe can they make a trade to get to a piece? Or I feel like they're a tough one for me because Mitchell's played well in the playoffs.
Yeah, Mitchell has always performed in playoffs. They're young again. It's kind of like the Pelicans thing, where I want to see them. It's hard to put a team that hasn't been together for more than a year as a finals contender, where they have the talent with Garland and Mitchell. That's a good offensive backcourt. Defensively, both of them are small. It's like the Monte Steph thing, where they're probably a little not better because Steph's so good, but it's hard to imagine them getting to the finals with. But then they're so big in the backcourt or in the front court. So it's a weird team. It's a weird NBA season. It's hard to predict anything at this point.
And right now, that matchup would be the Cavs and the Sixers. That'd be a pretty good first round matchup. That 4-5 in the East is going to be a brutal matchup for whoever gets that one. All right, I want to talk about this more as we go on at the season, but I just feel like that contenders thing is interesting. When you really look at it, like who are I feel like the West, it's just because we would never say, oh, we trust Dallas. You know what I mean? So it's like, why are we even throwing them in the mix? Like, do we trust the Lakers? Maybe, I don't know. Like, we just don't trust those teams. So I feel like it's down to those 3. And right now, that's how it feels. So, all right, hey, real quick here, I wanted to talk about the All-NBA real quick. It seems like it's going to be a tough season for it. I don't necessarily know who you had in the first one. Not to go through it like that, but what was kind of like your hardest part of kind of going through the list and trying to figure out who might be on the teams and not be on the teams?
The guards are just – I'm leaving – I have no Booker. I have no Kyrie. The first team, where's Steph go with this injury? I have him in second team.
Yeah, me too.
And then the forwards for first team with no center position makes it really difficult. You have Tatum, Durant, Jokic, Giannis fighting for 3 spots. Like, I think those are the 4 that will be in that mix. And I don't know if you have those 4.
It's better than the DeAndre Jordan days, that center.
No, exactly. Looking at the record books and see DeAndre Jordan with a first team All-NBA, like, what the hell?
I had Jokic, Durant, Giannis, Morant, Luka as my first team NBA. That was like who I had in there as the first
Who'd
team.
you have?
I had Morant and Luka as the guards.
Me too.
And then I had Giannis, Durant, and Jokic at the forward spots.
I have Tatum instead of Giannis.
So I put Giannis up there, and then for the next one I had Embiid, LeBron, Tatum, Curry, Brown, and I didn't necessarily feel great about LeBron in that sense, but I feel like
same thing. I have Giannis instead of Tatum.
His numbers are still there. I don't know. And it's still LeBron. It's still he's going to get that.
I have LeBron second team,
and then the third team was where it's always interesting, right? At this point, I'd have Mitchell and SGA in the backcourt. That's who I'd have back there. So we got the guards all the same, and then I'd have, as of right now, because like you said, got hurt, Zion and Siakam and some bonus would be my guys at the other forward spots. That was the tough one for me because I'm leaving off guys like
Marketing,
that was a tough one for me to leave off because he was doing good. And then we already mentioned the guards, Young and Booker. We're gonna leave
Fox too.
And Fox is on the list. So
no Kyrie.
Stacked list. With Kyrie, I don't know. Well, he has to play more games at this point. He's played like only 29, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Siakam was kind of the same reason I struggled with him too. But it was like, so him and Marketing, I feel like could be neck and neck as this year goes.
Yeah, I have DeMar DeRozan as my third forward.
DeRozan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the Bulls have been awful, but his numbers are ridiculous.
He'd be an interesting trade candidate for somebody if the Bulls ever decided to go it. I feel like the Bulls could get a lot if they don't. But I feel like they're, I mean, they should. If
they want to just do a complete rebuild,
I think they should. I mean, I don't think their team's not winning. Come on, they're not. They're not winning.
No, they suck.
They're not any of the teams that are right there with them. They might win a game or two in a playoff series, but that's just not happening. So the guards, man, there's gonna be some really good players. The Marketing thing too.
They let Wendell Carter go. He's turned into a good center. Lauri Marketing go. Like, they don't develop bigs at all. They all turn to mush. Like, Vucevic has been garbage since he got to Chicago.
Yes, so they have a bad streak of that for sure. And then a lot of guys get hurt their first few years in the league too. They have a bad reputation for that as well for the Bulls. All right, so like we said, it will be a tough year this year for all NBA teams. All right, why don't we transition from that? That was a bit, the NBA. We got to get some good talk in there with it. We went over the all NBA teams, MVPs, talked about the Warriors a little bit. Real quick, let's kind of, before we get to our winners and losers of the week and our last question of the week, I just wanted to real quick kind of go over touch on some of the NFL things since it was the last week of the NFL season. Just real quick, we didn't get a chance to talk about it a little bit. The Raiders, Niners, obviously your Niners did beat my Raiders by 3 in overtime. The Raiders then just get annihilated by the Chiefs yesterday. And Stidham, he does what he's, what I kind of expected in some regards. And then that's where like the, Raider fans, come at me like, well, this is why we keep Carr. My thing with Carr is he's not worth $40 million. He's not worth the money at that point in his career when he's performing the way he is. That's where I'm at with it. I understand people can say that's the same result. It was, right? It is the same thing. But what we saw yesterday, to me, is a bigger issue with the Raiders. They have to stay consistent. Don't panic. If you have a bad year, I don't know, like, I'm not a big McDaniels fan, but if you just keep firing your coaches and your GMs, like, it doesn't help. Like, the Raiders have proven that the system does not.
Continuity.
I do agree you have to have the right guy, but I mean, my God, you got to give them. They gave McKenzie 9 years, so I feel like they have to, like, you can't fire everybody now. So we'll see what happens with it. I don't know. I just think the Raiders' next move is they just got to draft. Like I said, all defense, for the love of God, just draft some defensive players. That's all we need. Just draft linebackers, draft defensive ends. And you'll be perfect. I feel like that's the best way to go now in the league. I don't care about anything else. Just draft the front 7.
I'd agree. They got to get D-line, O-line, and just a linebacker. The weapons will work themselves out. What?
What do you think of Stidham? You were like happy with him after week 1, like just from afar. You had to be like, okay, back to reality a little bit.
I still think I like I said when I texted, I liked what I saw. The Chiefs are. I don't see
that interception he threw was like a punt. That first one.
Well, that was a terrible throw. Or terrible
awful.
read. I don't know what he was doing. Yeah,
Awful.
I didn't watch much of the game. I saw the first quarter and I was like, he looks all right. The Chiefs, I think they're winning the Super Bowl. I think they're the best Chiefs team, even losing Tyreek Hill. I feel like the defense is there. The running game has been good the last couple of weeks, and this Pacheco guy is, and then McKinnon got a second life somewhere. I don't know where this came from, and then Mahomes is just out of this world. I don't see how you can stop
shovel pass or the little chest pass there for the touchdown.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, like the Raiders even played that well that they can't even. And that's what I mean about just the little plays like that from your quarterback. You know, that make a big difference. Go a long ways, little games like that, especially in the playoffs. You're just a championship contender when you have a guy that can make stupid, ridiculous plays like Mahomes can.
Yeah, just improvising plays that should be sacks, and you're getting the touchdown. It's so wild.
So the Raiders again finish off a crappy performance, right? They just end up like another bad year, 6-11, right? So just an awful season. Get a top 10 pick, I guess, is the only benefit from it, but not what you wanted when you get Adams and you think you're gonna have a big year, and especially when I predict them to go to the AFC Championship game. And speaking of the predictions, I have to give my brother a little props for picking the Jaguars. Jaguars at the beginning of the year, calling them making the playoffs. Well, damn it, we ripped on them at that time, and well, in case you get the last laugh, they end up winning. So I thought that was funny. That
he always pulls one of those out of his
the Browns.
Somehow
but yeah, the Browns a few years ago, right, with Baker.
Well, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago now. But
he had the one when they lost to the Chiefs that year. Yeah, that year. He picked
when we started the pod.
Yeah, so I thought he had them, but. So a little shout out to Kate. That was kind of what a terrible ending there. We'll get to that one later too, though. Anyways, let's get to with the playoffs here at the NFL. I don't know. It kind of leaves. It's going to be kind of.
Hold on, before we move to that, can I ask you a question about these records that are about to be broken? Tom Brady's about to break the record for most completions in a season, which is wild. He's had like this down year. Go back to Giselle. He should have retired. Mahomes, I think, just broke the passing record, or did he fall a little short? Does this 17th, this extra game, doesn't it ruin like records for it? Like it's like you're just changing everything. Like it doesn't matter.
They had 14 games, right? And then
exactly.
16. I agree. I just don't even think that. I just think there are way too many games. I just think 6. I do agree. It kind of like it waters it down, but like in 20 years from now, right? It'll be like those were the records, like because they all have the same. I don't know. It's kind of how the 16 game one went for after 25 years and having it. I don't know. That's how I look at the record. But I agree. It's kind of you have to look at it with perspective with everything. Like like Jacobs ran for like 1,700 yards, and it's like, well, that was one extra game that most people got running back. Just stuff like that. You have to think about
2,000 all-purpose yards and whatnot. And the Hall of Fame numbers are going to look different. People they're going to go, oh, look at this guy. He only had 200 passing touchdowns. No, this guy has 450. But this guy that had 450 won one playoff game in 15 years.
There definitely be some debates around it. I agree. I think there'll be some big debates around that. And they can use that too. But that happens in all sports, don't you think, too? I just think like that kind of like over time will kind of, I don't know, not happen much with it. All right, AFC playoffs matchups here. This is what it would look like today if it happened. Patriots have to win, though, right? So if they don't win, then I believe the Dolphins get in if they win. And if the Dolphins lose as well, then the Steelers get in if they win. If Mike Tomlin just has that team still alive. The Steelers over there. Our guy Trevor, let's be real, he's still alive over there with the Steelers. I don't even know. It sounds like they don't even want him to get in. So maybe that would be a bad thing if they get in. Is there a matchup that kind of intrigues you a little bit? Anything you're looking forward to on the AFC side today? I mean, the Patriots have to beat the Bills. That'll be a tough matchup for them. Bills obviously going to be playing with heavy hearts, so that'll be an interesting matchup. The Raven-Bengals thing is going to be interesting, too, because the possible coin flip, like I mentioned. So
that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But, like you said, they're trying to do the best they can, I guess, through this situation. But, all right, anything stay out to you in the AFC playoffs?
Yeah, I think the Baltimore-Cincinnati game is the most intriguing just because is Lamar going to play? Will he come back? And then Joe Burrow just has been unbelievable these last 10 weeks. And looking like Super Bowl contenders. And then to have this coin flip thing adds even more intrigue. It's just a weird season. And I think that's the best game that's going to be in the AFC playoff matchups.
What a matchup of hair on the Jaguars Chargers if that That's Head and Shoulders dream. What are we talking? I mean, this is a deal.
They should do something for that. That would
The
be
sunshine matchup.
good marketing.
Herbert and the blonde. Herbert and
Curly hair versus straight hair.
That's hilarious. All right, so we got NFC playoffs here. This one's a little bit more cut and dry than the AFC. You got the Seahawks right now at 7, but right now I would say the Packers have the upper hand, right, to get in.
Yeah, the Packers win.
Packers, they get in. I don't know why I have the Seahawks here, but the Packers have the upper hand if they get in that regard to get the 7 seed. You have the Giants up there. The Giants. You have the Vikings versus the Cowboys. But what do you think of the NFC overall? Just kind of like going into the final week of the season.
I mean, as a Niners fan, like I don't want them to play the Packers, and like I talked on
why you guys kick their ass every year. I don't get this. Why are you saying?
Because it's still Aaron Rodgers. I'd way rather play some like Daniel Jones. We're acting like it's Aaron Rodgers.
5-0 against the Packers though, and you've beat them.
Things happen. What?
You've crushed them at home in the playoffs the last few years, right?
But he's due. Great players get their due. Like they don't just stay down and get beat every time. I don't want to play the Packers. That's what I'm hoping we either get out of that spot or they don't get it. That's what I'm looking at this playoff week or this week 18.
To me, the most interesting thing would be the Eagles part of it, right? There's no way they could go from 1 to 5, like 5. That would be crazy if they lost it into the.
The Giants aren't even
playing anybody, are they?
Yeah, no, they're playing Davis Webb.
So they're not going to lose. But my point, you just cannot have that. Like that to me, is the most interesting part of that matchup. I think the Giants. I would be fascinated too by the Packers Niners. I just think you guys would I just don't think you guys would crush them. I just don't think it'd be a game. To me, the Cowboys Bucks is the most intriguing one in that regard. Like it's not one I want to overhype or anything like that, but I think that's the most intriguing matchup there for sure between those teams. All right, a little bit more here going here on the podcast, and we'll call it Tyler, NFL Show Me Teams Player of the Week, presented by Cool Stub, Row 1 brand. Go check it out over at the Cool Stub on Twitter. Use the code VSN15. You'll get 15% off anything in the art gallery. Tyler, kind of a big week. Who we got? Show Me Teams, Show Me Team, and Player.
My Show Me team is the Lions. I want to see them go into Green Bay and not be the same sorry-ass Lions that they've been for 20 years. I want to see a little fight and go into Green Bay and get a win. I think that'd be an impressive win. Could be almost not a game, like a franchise changer, but beating Green Bay in Green Bay as the Detroit Lions to get into the playoffs if Seattle loses. To get Green Bay out of the playoffs would be a huge win for that franchise. So they're my Show Me team.
When we had Terrell on last weekend, Jimmy, when we were talking the gridiron, we were talking about just that. I felt like the Lions, this would be a franchise changing win for them if they could get that. It feels like it would be a franchise changing win for them. But the reality is they need the Seahawks to lose today for that game to really even matter. But I still think there's an importance to it. I remember the Raiders when they beat the Chiefs in the final game the first season. They had John Gruden to go to 8-8, and they knocked the Chiefs out of the playoffs on a field goal to win it. I remember thinking that was a big game for them because it did propel them for the next 3 years to be pretty good. So and then maybe that's the same case for the Lions. Who knows? In a division that is maybe Rodgers getting older. We'll see what happens with the Vikings. Who knows with Cousins? All right, I got Packers and I got Goff. So I got the complete opposite of you. The reason I went Packers is because obviously they got to win the game. To me, that's the Show Me team of the week. You got to show me you can beat the Lions at home to get in the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers. And then I got player Jared Goff. I mean, this is a game that nobody, I think, thinks that you can win. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that you're going to come in there and play in the cold and beat Rodgers in Lambeau Field. So that's my player of the week, Show Me player. So that's going to be a good game tonight, Tyler. A lot on the line. Lions don't get too many primetime games, so we'll see what happens there with it. So those are Show Me team players of the week presented by Row 1 brand. All right, last couple things here. Our other question of the week we had, again, here was from our guy Ant. He asked us, how did you and Tyler meet? I know that is not a sports-related question. It does not matter. We do not care about this. Any question will do in any regard. Well, most questions will do in any regard. So I guess I'll say I don't even.
You tell me your side. I'll say my
time
side.
we met because we've known each other for so damn long. So I'd say I probably met you at some point when you were in first grade. That's all I can think about. It's probably sometime you were in first grade when you and my brother hung out. Maybe I probably met you before that when me and your brothers played sports, soccer, when we were like 6 or 7. You're 3 years younger than me. But we officially got met in first grade, and I remember it. So that would have put me in 4th grade, I guess. So and then you came over all the time at that point with Kate, come over and hang out and stuff like that. So that is how we met. Nothing. A lot of people in this podcast game, they usually just kind of meet. I know it's online, a lot of them too, and then come together. So in that regard, ours is a little different than some people because we've known each other so long, and our families have known each other so long. And
our sisters were roommates in college.
Are just ridiculous. The stories we've accumulated over the years.
What?
I said the stories we've accumulated over the years, knowing each other.
My recollection is pretty similar. I was in first grade. Me and Casey were like best friends.
How did you and Casey become friends?
Playing basketball.
Just basketball, the player.
Playing basketball on the black top. Me coming over and you were there, and we'd play like whatever the Sega Genesis baseball game was at the time. Tony La Russa or All-Star Baseball, I think, was the other name. And we just became friends after that, or not even, but friends by having a brother and a friend that were the same. And then we grew our own friendship as the years went on.
And the thing that's interesting about us is that we also have like the connections with our brothers too. Like obviously,
our sisters went to college together. You played baseball and played baseball with me. You played baseball with my brother. You played soccer with my brother's brother for a year. And then you coached with my other brother.
Probably our sisters. I mean, they've lived together. We've got a lot of lived together. Thank God. That's good.
I don't know if I can manage that.
Speaking of our sisters, 50 to 70 mile per hour winds in Sacramento last night. So man, they'll hold on out there. Hold on. You're right. Then I remember the one story that I loved with your sister and you was like, God, you must have been like 10 and I was like 13. We were brother were playing in that tournament. And your brother and we went into the ice machine. It was like in that room, and your brother or somebody. We try to open the door we go open the door to get out. You know what I mean? Your sister's with me, and she's like 7, right? And I can't open it, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Why can't we open it? And your sister just. I mean, my God, a scream that still hurts my ears to this day. I mean, good Lord. And then I could tell you were panicking, and then I was like, what the hell's going on? Who the hell makes a door that locks from the inside? I was like, well, I got ice. I'm going to survive on water. And there's a window. I can at least break the window, I guess, to get out. But I just remember, and then your brother let go of the door, and him and like a couple of our other douchebag friends from the team were out there doing it. I was like, you son of a bitch. Your sister.
I have a distinct memory of you going to open the door and it being like locked. We thinking it being locked, and you go, oh shit. My sister. Well, it's weird that my sister was even there. Like, why would she even be with us?
It was a tournament, like kind of in the hallway. Probably she was young. Your mom probably said, "Go take her with you."
Probably, that makes sense.
Don't go with Kyle. Stay with you. Stay with Tyler. That's like the one that always kind of stands out to me the most. And then like the thing too with me and you is like with your brother, like your brother Ryan, like helped me a ton in Little League, like coaching and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of funny. Like me and you are friends, but we're also friends with we put golfing together too, and stuff like that. Me and Kyle played the most sports together.
Our whole families are friends, basically. Yeah. Like Pam, Bob, Connie, Greg.
Yeah. Well, that's
known each other for 30 years.
Well, Ant, thanks for that question there. Hopefully, we kind of answered some of that in not too boring a fashion there. Who was your first grade teacher? Let's keep it boring. Who was your first?
Miss Bowman.
Miss Bowman. She was. That's right. Teacher.
I lost so many pencils that year. She taped a pencil to my desk, like a little rope, and tied it to the end of the pencil and taped it so I wouldn't lose any more pencils. She was working on a teacher's budget. She wasn't letting me take any more pencils.
She was like 75 years old too at that point.
Yeah, she was old hag.
All right, so that was our little reminiscence there of how we met. All right, let's keep it going here with our last segment of the show, like we always do. Winners and losers of the week, presented here by SeatGeek. Tyler, who you got for winner of the week?
My winner is Andy Reid. Just another spectacular season. Completes a 14-3 season, I believe. I believe.
Who knows?
He's just
17 games.
Continuously.
No, it's 14-3.
Continuously, just the best coach in the league, and he does it again this season.
He really is.
Without losing one of the best weapons in the NFL.
Well, he has the ultimate weapon though, so he developed it. So he has him and Kelsey are still ridiculous together. All right, I got winner of the week. We kind of talked about it already. Still want to mention it since it's the end of the show. We got to give the Bills Bengals medical staff again. I mean, I don't know how you beat that winner of the week there. So that's number one there, and just everybody in that was in that area there, just making that work. So winner of the week's there. I also just got to throw out a couple other ones just for fun here, like I always do. College football winner of the week. This Monday night game, championship. Me and Savage are already tweet. I'll probably say, "Hey, are you gonna be able to stay up again for the whole show, for the whole game?" But I don't know how people do it because college games end at like midnight. The way that championship game goes, or later most of the time, right? That game is always going 4.5 hours usually. So I always get a kick out of people like, "I'm not gonna make it to the end here of the championship." But with that said, Georgia, TCU, they might not have to make it to the end. A lot of people are thinking it's going to be a blowout by halftime. What do you got?
In the Georgia TCU game, I think Georgia's going to win by. If I were to bet, it's at 12.5. I'd tease it up all the way to 20 and be like, "Give me some real money." Georgia's going to blow them out.
I wonder if
the defensive line is just going to give this quarterback the beating of his lifetime. I don't see how he's going to. If the TCU wins, it'll be one of the biggest upsets in college football history in my lifetime.
Yeah, it would be a pretty crazy one. Even over the Ohio State one with Maurice Claret.
I mean, at least Ohio State had pros on that team. Like, I don't think TCU, maybe a couple. I don't know of any.
You don't know the trenches.
No, I don't. The TCU, I don't. I don't know TCU. But Big 12 doesn't produce the best trench work. So.
Their left tackles are supposed to be able to pass protect.
Well, Trent Williams did go to Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's not going to be in it for too long. All right. All right. So I got that winner of the week. Also, I got to mention Mitchell, 71, the seventh guy ever to score over 70 points. He was the fourth most efficient to do it too, which I thought was pretty crazy. It was like Wilt Chamberlain and David Robinson. I was like, it's pretty good for a guard to be the fourth most efficient out of that list. Kobe, I look at the assist totals for some of it. I think Mitchell had 6 assists in that, or maybe 8, something like that. Kobe had 2 in his 81 point. Because you know when he's getting them up. When you're making them, you got to get them up. And then I already mentioned Casey. You got to be winner of the week for the Jags take as well. All right, loser of the week, Tyler. Who do you got here? Presented by SeatGeek.
My loser of the week is the Tennessee Titans. Just an absolute choke job. Their offensive. Why are you playing Dobbs down the stretch the last 2 weeks?
Who else are you going to play?
Malik Willis.
You would just stick with him?
Yeah, I'm not playing Dobbs. What does that get you? The same player, but a 30-year-old. It doesn't make sense to me. The Titans just were. I don't know what they were. It looked like they were trying to not make the playoffs.
I don't know what to say what it says about Will. I mean, either Vrabel just doesn't like, wasn't his guy because, like GM got fired. Like maybe he took him over Vrabel. I don't know. Like, he was there the whole season. Why would you not play him over a guy you just picked up? So obviously there was something not there, right? And when Willis did play, he didn't look. I would not say he looked unreal, but obviously Dobbs.
No, he didn't look that good at all. But at least you drafted him, and he's 22. Like he could see something for the first time. Maybe it sticks. I don't know. Maybe you learned something. Dobbs, you're not keeping around.
On the way home, I was listening to the game on the radio to start. They had a crazy stat I thought stood out about the Titans. It said teams that had the least amount of red zone attempts, like that had been the red zone the least. The Broncos lead the league at 31, right? They've only had 31 attempts, which is crazy to think about.
That's insane.
And then I think there was like the Titans next with like 44 at the time when they were saying it. But the Titans are like for being in the playoff, to have a chance in the playoffs, it seems like such a low attempt. So that tells you where they're at there. I had them for loser of the week, but I had them. Sorry, Pete Shark. We both had them for loser of the week and all our guys out there. But I had it for why are you calling a pass play when you're up by 3 points and it's 35? You've been running the ball consistently. Just take your chances with Henry and your defense again that you'll get another stop or you'll go to a field. Like I don't know. And then they fumble and get a course for a sack. It's like that one time in Madden, right, when you have like the 70 quarterback, you're like, I'm going to get a little risky here with a little hook route. Nothing will go wrong. Damn it. You know what I mean? Like
that's what I mean. Yeah. It looked like they weren't trying to make the playoffs. It was.
How can you say that there was 2 minutes left in the game and they were right in it? That's not trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but they threw it away. Why would you throw the ball like you said? Play football, basic football. You're a basic team. You're not this show off. Score 30 points.
I could just imagine.
Give it to your best player.
If you want this game, throw it in dramatic fashion. You throw that. You call
that. I don't think they did try and lose. It just looked that way. It just seemed that way. The way you played Dobbs the last 2 weeks. It didn't. I'm sick of. I don't want to rip on the Titans anymore. They're going through it.
I always get a kick out of teams too, like that always pick up a guy from that lives in their college state. Usually, like that happens all the time. Like dogs like from Tennessee, it always happens. Like the Niners.
It's like they want
San Jose State, like
less backlash from the fans because it's a local boy.
We know him well with a guy from Pittsburgh, right? He went to the guy they have now,
Jeff Garcia.
Pickett. All right, I had them as well as for lose of the week, and then I had the Denver Nuggets rims. Denver Nuggets rims. I had 2 games. Had to get delayed because of rims. They were not even. They had to get the wrenches out. They had to get a little. They have to get the measure, not the measuring tape, but the level out. Well, the first one took 35 minutes. They sped it up, and it took 10 minutes the next time. But I love Mike Malone's reaction. He just comes out on it. He looks at the free throw line. He's like, what the hell is that?
my favorite part is Jokic getting up and doing wind sprints to stay ready.
I mean, it was just ridiculous. So I guess we got to go loser of the week. The Denver Nuggets ribs not getting the job.
Who's dunking so hard? Aaron Gordon dunks too hard.
Dunks too hard on it. So if you haven't seen Mike Malone's reaction, I just feel like that was just a classic.
It's a good gif.
Yeah, it was pretty fun in that regard. All right, Tyler, what else do you got? Anything else here before we call it a podcast here?
I think that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Check out TMB every Saturday morning. We only have until the Niners lose in the playoffs, so you only got one guaranteed chance to check out the TMB podcast on Variety Sports Network.
Yeah, that'll be good. You guys have been doing a good job with that show there. Appreciate anybody that tuned in, watched the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast. We appreciate everybody. Ant, thank you for those questions. We appreciate it. It was fun. It was fun looking back out of that. And so we appreciate your contributions to the show and your support in that regard. So it's been awesome that. And Tyler, with that said, my friend, have a good week. Peace.
Cheers.
Later.